My next guest on our New Year's Eve preview special is the great John Evans. And John Evans is the founding partner of a group called Promising People. And John, first of all, thanks for joining. And let's start this conversation by you telling us what Promising People is, what do you do, and why is it important?
Well, thanks so much for having me, Steve Moore. Delighted to be here. Here's the promise. Here's the problem, and here's my operating premise. And that is we have, and I want to be very clear, I want to underscore that I absolutely love this country dearly, but we have a self-inflicted wound. Mm-hmm. And that self-inflicted wound, Steve, is this idea of recidivism. And what is recidivism? Of course, it's when somebody is released from prison and then they return back to prison because they were not able to get their life in order. Mm-hmm. And here's the staggering number, Steve Moore. It is at a 83% number. So 83% of the time when an inmate, a returning citizen, leaves prison, he or she is going to be back in prison within 9 years. And that is just preposterous, and it's morally reprehensible. So we're going to fix it at Promising People. And the way we're going to fix it, Steve, is with this miracle called virtual reality. Now, my father was an Ivy League educated history professor. He taught all around the world. And he would always talk about Gutenberg in 1440. And he would talk about the printing press and what a breakthrough it was. Well, we have something on that par with virtual reality. What do I mean by that? When you learn something through a virtual reality headset, when you learn something through a virtual reality headset, you are going to retain 80% more of the content. And please I would love for your viewers to fact check that for me. But it is truly a miracle in education and training. And we're going to put that to use at Promising People. We're out of Orlando, Florida, and we're just now starting to rock and roll. And we're going to reduce this. We're going to cut the recidivism rate in half, Steve Moore. Mm-hmm.
So this is a national crisis. The fact that we're essentially, when we put people in prison, especially maybe a 19 or 20, 21-year-old, that we're just turning them into professional criminals. And it's just outrageous. And it's so sad that this is happening. I mean, I can't believe the recidivism rate is that high. I mean, that is such an indictment of our prison system that they're just basically releasing people back out and then soon they're right back in again. I mean, that's a failure. That's a complete failure of our prison system.
That's exactly right. Said differently, 95% of the millions of people that are incarcerated will be coming back to society, 83% of whom will be returning to prison. Now, let's really, I work a lot with the Navy SEALs, as you know. I'm not one, to be clear, but I work with them. I've studied them for a decade, and they talk about upstream disruption. Problem number one, illiteracy in prison is at an unacceptable 60 to 70%.
No, I can't. But hold on, 60% of people in prison can't read.
Cannot read. Are functionally illiterate. Secondly,
so sad.
By
the way, that is not just an indictment of our prison system. That's an incredible indictment of our education system as well, which we also need to fix.
That is exactly right. Secondly, the GED, while well-intentioned, has just anemic results. I mean, it's just breathtaking how bad the GED is for returning citizens. It's somewhere around a 2% success rate. We now have a solution at Promising People that is ensuring a 95% success rate for a high school diploma. And a high school diploma, Steve Moore, you'll appreciate as an economist, pays 33% more than a GED would. So the key is you're learning at your own pace, asynchronously, Steve, with the headset on. You're removing distractions. And here's the big one. You're removing shame from the didactic or the learning experience. Because a lot of these folks, God bless them, Steve, God bless them, they have horrific memories of high school and junior high and being giggled at, and they weren't students, right? And we dropped shop. When you and I went to high school and junior high, there was shop. And we, for these kinesthetic learners, for people that learn with their hands and doing, We just neglected them. We dropped them off. And so we're paying the price now with this incredible rate. So number 2 is we're going to get them a high school diploma. They're going to learn at their own pace. Number 3, they're going to have 23 different curricula from which to choose in the trades, Steve Moore. And as you know, we need help there. Electrical helper, that's our flagship program. That's, by the way, I'm a DeSantis appointee, as you know. And Governor Ron DeSantis put himself through Yale and New Haven as an electrical helper. We have the opportunity to educate and get these guys a gainful and gals a gainful job so they can have a sense of dignity. And I have to tell you one story. We're in Cibola, New Mexico, with the U.S. Marshals, Steve Moore. Now, the U.S. Marshals heretofore have never done any rehab with their detainees, with their inmates. Since inception by President George Washington, in the 1780s, there has been no rehab until now. We went out there recently. We sent out a team from Promising People, and we had 2 cohorts of 25 men apiece. And these are rough guys, Steve. These are rough men. They have been through it. And we're going to call him Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith was learning to become an electrical helper through Promising People using the headset, where we compress the time. It normally takes 10 months to become an electrical helper. We moved that down to 15 days because of the incredible velocity of learning with virtual reality. And Mr. Smith was set to get out of prison, Steve. And he said, no, I'm not leaving prison because I haven't got my certificate yet, because I don't know how to make a clean living out there on the other side of these walls. Now, if that's not heart-wrenching, if that doesn't move your soul, I don't know what does. So we appealed to the warden, Steve. We appealed to the judge. Mr. Smith stayed. He got his certificate. He's now working as an electrical helper. Hallelujah. We're giving him a fishing pole. We're giving him a way to – now we're not giving him a fish. We're giving him a fishing pole, and we're going to show him how to use it, and he can get out in the marketplace. And make
one of the big problems – those are remarkable results. One of the big problems I have is that I think we just over-incarcerate people, especially young people, unless they are involved in a very dangerous, violent crime. I worry that when we put these, a 20-year-old in prison for 2 or 3 or 4 years, we're just dooming that young person, most of them young males, most of them young black males, to a life of criminality. And so isn't there some kind of alternative to incarceration? I believe, as you do, as we all do as Christians or Jews, that everyone in life needs a second chance. These young people, a 19-year-old, maybe grow up in a broken family. They went to crappy schools, everything, they had 2 strikes against them when they were born. I find it just almost inhumane that we don't give people a second chance.
That's exactly right. A couple of scriptures just leaped at me. There, but for the grace of God go I, number 1. Also, Isaiah comes to mind. Look, I am doing a new thing. Don't you perceive it? And that's what we're going to do here, because with President Donald J. Trump, that man is nothing if not a problem solver, for heaven's sakes. I mean, he is born for this. And my boss, Ron DeSantis, has been fantastic down here in Florida to accelerate. We're going in, we're going to be behind the walls now here in Florida, getting this going. And that's exactly right. I mean, the case studies just abound. It's so wrenching. Alan Russell in 2021 in Mississippi got a life sentence without parole for possessing 1.05 ounces of marijuana.
What?
He's in jail forever.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, so you can Google it and look it up. Now, he had been arrested before, but never for anything violent.
That's just sick. Sick.
And it was 17 years since his last arrest, and now he's sitting and he's rotting in prison. Remember, 95%, Steve, are coming out, and 83% will be returning. And we've got to do something about that, Steve Moore.
So we have a crisis in our criminal justice system, clearly. By the way, how many of these folks that you're dealing with are involved in drugs, drug related crimes?
Right. Yeah, there's plenty of them. I don't have a statistic for you, but I can say that there are plenty of them. And what I would really encourage your listeners to do, I mean, because most of your listeners, they know somebody or at least know somebody who knows somebody that's, incarcerated. I mean, again, we have millions of people that are on supervised release or are behind bars, and, have them go to the warden or the person in charge and say, look, and I'm sorry for the shameless plug, but I think we're trying to change something here. PromisingPeople.com, go to PromisingPeople.com. And say, look, I want the headsets. I want access to the headsets. I want to learn. I want to get a certification. Mm-hmm. We have what is called a NOCTI certification, NANCI. That is the the gold standard in the trade, Steve. And that took us 2 years to get that, man.
Wow. So, John, we've only got about a minute and a half left. Tell us the quick story of your partner who really came up with this. And it's a harrowing story, but everyone should hear it because it really could happen to any of us, and it's scary. But it has a bit of a happy ending. So go ahead and tell us what happened in that regard.
Yeah, that's great, and that's certainly germane to this whole story, Steve. And thanks. Dave Clark is my partner. He founded Promising People. He spent 6.5 years, 6.5 years in prison, largely in Coleman down here in Florida. I won't go into details because we don't have time, but I can tell you this, that Donald J. Trump commuted him on January 5th. How about that, the day before the
So wait a minute. Hold on. But back up a minute. You were saying, I remember when we had dinner with him, he was saying that he was there during COVID, and he went a full year without even seeing the sun, which I just thought.
He did not see the sun for 1 year. And
that's inhumane. That's cruel and unusual punishment. I mean, my God. I mean, how can you do that? How could he survive that?
The man is indefatigable, and he is on a mission. It's a calling for him. He's the most extraordinary person that I know.
Well, back up again. I just want to spend a couple extra minutes because this really is one of the most, it's a scary story. And it does have the happy ending, but he was, as I understand it, He was a real estate developer. I won't get into all the details, but then when the real estate market crashed, a bunch of he was accused of financial fraud. But what I found was amazing about that story was that he went before a jury. The jury found him not guilty, and the judge overruled the jury.
Correct. That can happen.
I've never even heard of that before. I've never heard of that before.
It's like Stalingrad in 1956. Yeah. I mean, it's just incredible that can happen in the USA.
And how did Trump even find out about this guy?
Through the Aleph Foundation, which is a Jewish organization that finds these awful, reprehensible scenarios of people that are incarcerated, and they work feverishly to overturn it. And Jared, the son-in-law of Donald Trump,
Jared Kushner,
pushed this to the fore. That's right. Thank you. Pushed this to the fore. Got this to the president's attention. And Donald Trump
tell us when the call came in.
So the call comes in from Donald Trump to Crystal Clark, Dave's wife, loving, dutiful wife, who's waiting at home for 6.5 years. By the way, they indicted her. She spent 14 months behind, detained as well, because they're trying to get a plea bargain out of her. And she said, look, we've done nothing wrong. We're not doing it. I'm not doing any pleas. So Trump calls her and says, hi, this is Donald Trump. And she says, of course it is. And I'm Marilyn Monroe.
Right. Wow. But it was Donald Trump.
But it was Donald Trump. And listen, he got nothing out of this politically. This is the kind of man that, and he calls her. Then she realized, oh my gosh, it really is. And he says, I'm sending your boy home next Tuesday. This is the most preposterous case I've ever seen in my life.
Oh,
but that's 6.5 years, Steve. That's when he got the idea for Promising People. And then he reached out to a lot of incredible people. Dr. David Barker out of Iowa, who's amazing, a PhD economist from Chicago, your friend. Mm-hmm. The former chairman from Deloitte has been so valuable. Even Oprah Winfrey's right-hand person, Wintley Phipps, has been integral in our process here at
Well, John, we're up against a hard break, so we got to end this here. But it's an amazing story. Thank you for what you're doing with Promising People. It's a great story. Folks, we got to fix our prison system, our incarceration system. We got, how many people are behind bars today? It's in the millions, right?
Yeah, it's 2 million behind bars, and you have supervised release. You have millions more. So we've got some work to do. Yeah, Steve Moore.
Thanks, John. Have a happy New Year. That's John Evans of Promising People.
Eden Memorial Chapels understands Jewish funerals can take many forms. Some are Orthodox, while others are more conservative or of a Reformed nature. There's no one better. With services close to all New York and New Jersey cemeteries, Eden Memorial Chapels offer fair and balanced pricing and can provide easy transfer of you and your loved ones to Israel. While you're grieving, they're here to take care of all the details so that you deal with less bureaucracy and have more peace of mind. Go to EdenMemorial.com. That's EdenMemorial.com.